The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of Green Acres and our guests. These general gardening tips and suggestions may work for you, as well as those from alternative sources. When using any garden products or tools, read and follow all label directions. And learn how to make your yard summer strong at bewatersmart.info.
The Green Acres Garden Podcast is the podcast dedicated to helping gardeners hone their growing skills while we celebrate our love of plants. So whether you're new to growing or a seasoned gardener, you're sure to learn something new. Join the fun as we have conversations with world-class growers, passionate green thumbs, and professional garden experts from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Listen every week. We'll answer questions you didn't know you had. And away we grow. Hello again and welcome one and all you beautiful gardeners out there. Welcome to the Green Acres Garden Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Jordan, and I love plants, and I love that you love plants. We have an amazing episode for you this week. It actually connects back to several episodes, I think, that we've been working up to. A lot about ecological restoration, ecological gardening. And this is, I think, a perfect episode because now that we have the momentum, we have the energy. We're like, hey, now we know what we want to do. We want to help the wildlife. We want to plant a ton of flowers, and we want to bring as many birds, bees, and butterflies and other creatures into our landscape as much as possible. And how do we do that? Well, by planting native plants. So we have one of the best guests for this topic. But before we introduce her, let's say hello to my co-pilot for this episode, Austin, the audio man, Blank.
Oh,
what's going on, Austin?
Hello, Kevin. I'm doing great. It's a lovely week over here in the studio. We're making podcast magic over here. And welcome back to all of our listeners. If you're a seasoned listener, you've been with us for a while, welcome back. And if you're a new listener, welcome to the fun. Here we go. Let's get into it. You're right. We're talking natives this week because we've been inspired to attract more wildlife into our landscapes. And who better to talk to than the president of the CNPS. Kevin, what exactly is the CNPS?
The California Native Plant Society. This is a group of diehard individuals who love their plants. They love their native plants and the effect that they have on the natural world around them. All the bugs, all the birds, the bees and butterflies and beyond. These creatures rely upon these plants. And it's up to us to incorporate these plants into our landscapes the best that we can, because if you want to see painted ladies, monarchs, pipevine swallowtails, maybe it's going to take a sticky monkey or two.
Wait, okay. Are those butterflies?
Yes.
Those are all butterflies?
The painted ladies, the monarchs, the pipevine swallowtail, carpenter bees. If you want to lure these creatures in, it's going to take things like lupin, penstemon, native verbenas. You might need the help of a few friends, some sticky monkeys.
The sticky monkey.
That's a
cool
flower.
One. So I worked on a video promoting some of the new native plants that are available at Green Acre stores now. There's just over 20 varieties of new plants available. The sticky monkey is one of them, and I was drawn to it because it's this beautiful orange flower on it.
They're
it's
cool.
Kind of wavy looking.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool plant. But I do want to talk to you also, Kevin. You just recently shared with me some of the amazing things happening at your native plant garden at your school. Tell me about that.
Okay, so
let's get into
a few weeks ago, I noticed some monarchs just kind of fluttering through, just one or two. And I was like, well, this is fantastic. And then now I've been noticing, so we have a few different varieties of milkweed out in the garden. And I looked down, just covered in caterpillars, monarch caterpillars with those classic, was it kind of green, white, and black stripes? I mean, all over. I had to bring Austin out, and you saw them for yourself. What'd you think?
Oh, it was amazing. I didn't know how big those caterpillars are. And then to see how many of them were all over the milkweed, I was thoroughly impressed. And I'm so glad you planted that and was able to help these monarchs out. So you think that when you saw them fluttering by, they were scoping out a spot? Is that right?
I'm hoping that they were feeding a little bit on the nectar, and then obviously they were laying eggs, and those eggs hatch and they grow really quick. From the time they hatch to the time they go into that cocoon, they'll grow about 1,000 times. So 10 times in length, but 1,000 times in weight. So they grow quick and they eat a lot.
Can I ask you when I visited, you were showing me all the caterpillars, and you mentioned some might be getting full enough and strong enough to become a little chrysalis,
Yeah.
right? Have you happened to find chrysalises around your garden?
We have in the past, but not yet. So
Okay.
we'll go back next week, and I think some of them were looking like me after a Thanksgiving meal, a little plump, right? A little full in the jeans. No, they should be ready soon. They go
Excellent.
quick. Their life cycles are pretty swift, and so fingers crossed. And it's kind of fun that the area, that garden where they are at, it used to be lawn, kind of mostly weeds that were overwatered, and kind of trimmed to the shape of a lawn. It'd be raining, and that garden would be getting watered. So we stepped in, had the kids rip out all that old irrigation, rip out that traditional lawn turf, put in a bunch of climate-adapted plants, some natives as well, the milkweed, and now we're seeing monarch butterflies flutter in. There are hummingbirds there. We're seeing bees. We're noticing carpenter bees in the area. It's just so cool. Mason bees. There's so much going on, and I think it just, for us, I love it. When we didn't have that space, you would just walk by, and now that space is fluttering. It's a little oasis, and I think hopefully today we'll encapsulate that spirit. We'll learn a bit about maybe some native plants that kind of work well for us.
Definitely.
I know we have the perfect guest for this.
Oh, yeah. So we sat down with Lesley Hamamoto. She's the president of the Sacramento Chapter of the CNPS to talk to us about what their organization does, what they're fighting for, and all the details about all the best native plants to put in your landscape to do exactly what we're talking about, attract that wildlife in and create habitat for them. So here we go. Let's jump into our interview with Lesley Hamamoto. Here we go.
So I'm sitting down with Lesley Hamamoto of the California Native Plant Society. Lesley, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm so happy to talk with you. I love native plants. Before we get into it, please introduce yourself to our listeners. Let them know who you are.
Yeah, so Lesley Hamamoto. I have been trained primarily in botany and biology, but I am currently in my volunteer time the chapter president for the Sacramento Valley Chapter of the California Native Plant Society. And we are an organization that looks to promote and conserve native plants.
Why does a normal person, why do native plants matter to the normie?
In the United States, there are 40 million acres of lawn nationwide that could be converted to more functional habitat for our wildlife. You know, we always think about preserving habitat for wildlife. We need to preserve those wild areas, but there's not that many of those areas left. And so one area where we can really make a difference and where the individual can make a difference is incorporating habitat and wildlife supporting vegetation and native plants in your yard. And that 40 million acres is basically the equivalent of 52 Yosemite National Parks.
It's wild.
Plants are primary producers, and so they are the only organisms that are able to convert sunlight into sugar. And so that is basically what starts the whole process of all these different organisms having food. Animals can't do that. And so all animals in some way rely on plants.
Absolutely. That's the first thing, first day one in horticulture class, I go, why are plants important? And one of the major things is because no matter what you're eating, you can all trace it back to a plant.
Yep.
Absolutely. So cool. I feel like natives are making a comeback. And it's one of those things, for good reasons. Has that energy, are you seeing that translate on the ground to people starting to go, yeah, I can plant a little bit. I can put a few plants in my garden. I can help out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, for native plants, it's not just that interest in that topic. It's this feeling that you're actually doing something really beneficial for the environment. And I think that's what gets people really interested and really passionate about this topic.
Do you have a favorite native plant? You've got to have one. I can tell by the look on your face.
So I feel like that's kind of like asking you which child is your favorite.
Oh yeah, Billy. No, I'm just kidding. I'm like.
I have different favorite plants for different situations, right? Some of my favorites include manzanitas.
So pretty.
They're so pretty. They look good 365 days a year. There are different sizes of different species, and different cultivars have different sizes and textures and colors. That is a plant that I recommend for everybody to plant. And the manzanita in particular is great for our early pollinators like bumblebees. and hummingbirds as well, because they're flowering densely with a lot of nectar and pollen at a time of year when not much else is flowering. A lot of our manzanitas start flowering in December, January, February. So that is something that is providing a ton of resources at a time when resources are scarce. And so, yeah, that's another great reason to plant a manzanita.
Ceanothus, what's your thoughts?
I love them.
Yeah, they're pretty too.
The trick in my yard is trying to figure out, okay, which one do I have space for?
Yeah.
And when I'm trying to fit one in. But yeah, I probably have 7 or 8 different cultivars of Ceanothus in my yard. And I have a pretty small residential yard, but I've crammed everything in that I possibly could.
Yeah, they're so cool. I love them because they contrast so well, because you don't see a lot of kind of sturdy, rugged plants like that have these beautiful kind of those, I don't know if it's periwinkle, the blue, those clusters are just, they really pop.
Yeah. Ceanothus is one that the neighbors will always stop and say, what is that plant?
Yeah. And once you get them rooted, they're off and running. They don't really take a ton of you don't have to baby them.
No.
Just cut them back as needed.
Yeah. And I mean, I think one thing that, I grow a lot of the sort of, the larger shrub Ceanothus, and I prune them up so that they have some of the branching showing below. And I've planted a ton of other lower growing plants underneath them. You have to
gives you some depth in there.
Yeah. And then also it allows you to spread out bloom times, right? So you can plant something underneath that blooms in fall when Ceanothus are going to be planting in the spring.
Is that part of the mindset where you're like, hey, if I'm going to have this space and I really want it to support wildlife, let's make sure the dinner is always being served.
Yes, exactly. So between having, structural differences, having tall trees and shrubs with lower growing perennials underneath, to also spreading out that bloom time. And then a lot of our native insects as well will eat the foliage.
The leafcutter bees.
The foliage, yes.
Yeah, they've been nibbling on my red buds.
That's the perfect example. I mean, that's something that I think with native plants is kind of a change in mindset for some people, where it's like, you want the bugs to eat your plants.
Yeah.
That's the goal of native plants.
Because the tree's doing fine. It can handle a little hit.
Yeah.
So cool. Now, I know the California poppy, Eschlotia, did I say that? Escholzia? Escholzia. So they're beautiful, gorgeous, obviously. They get a lot of love. But let's give love to a few other wildflowers today. Are there any other California wildflowers that really just tickle you?
Oh, Clarkia. There's so many different species of Clarkia. They're also really great for pollen collecting insects. Poppy is great. Poppy has a ton of pollen. They attract a ton of pollinators.
They don't require a lot of water either.
No. What's kind of funny though is I am not able to grow poppies in my yard.
No? Is this a HOA thing? What's going on?
No, I have spread seeds year after year after year, and I cannot grow poppies in my yard.
Let's not stop. Let's keep trying.
And it's really interesting. The native plants, I would not say as a whole, native plants are harder to grow than other plants, but a lot of our native plants do have somewhat specific requirements, and certain ones will do better in your specific location than other ones. So I just want to prevent people from, trying one native plant and saying, oh, they're really hard to grow, because they're not. It's just finding the right plant for the right place.
Absolutely, and they're all different. Native grasses. Grasses are pretty cool. Are there any native grasses that you're familiar with or that you particularly enjoy?
I mean, the native deer grass is one that is very dramatic.
Is it the Muhlenbergia?
Muhlenbergia rigens. It can get a little bit big. It's one of our bigger native grasses. So in my yard, when it's in flower, and grasses do flower, it's probably close to 5 feet tall and wide.
It's like big, like an explosion of leaves in all directions.
Yeah, but definitely, the motion that it adds to a garden is amazing. They look good at a time of year when a lot of other natives don't necessarily, they're not in active growth. And so, yeah, filling in those different spaces with native grasses is great. Native grasses, bunch grasses also provide a lot of cover for various insects.
You read my mind.
Yeah, whether it's our, moths that are overwintering or bees that are nesting.
Because there's a lot of little spaces inside those leaves.
Little protected crevices inside those bunch grasses that are great for insects.
And for me, I feel like when you have a landscape, like where you talk about the manzanitas and the CNO, those grasses have wildly different structures and leaves, so they really kind of accentuate each other. I feel like they kind of, even though they're not super showy and colorful, they look so kind of unique and wonderful that it kind of helps make everything else around them look even more interesting as well.
Yeah, I think having just a variety of textures and colors and bloom times is something that's really exciting about a native garden.
Love it. Now you brought up carnivorous plants. I love carnivorous plants, especially as a teacher, because it's like one of those things that kids are like, it's like exciting to them. Like, oh my gosh, a Venus flytrap, I'm gonna feed my dog to it. They don't realize they're so tiny. But California has some native carnivorous plants.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? Share, dish.
So most of our native carnivorous plants are not very available in the trade. One, because a lot of them are quite rare, and so we don't want to be, collecting them from the wild.
No, just go out and enjoy them.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing about our native carnivorous plants is that they're temperate, right? So a lot of the carnivorous plants that people grow as houseplants, they like a tropical environment that is much more similar to what we have in our homes. One of the most sort of notable native carnivorous plants is the Darlingtonia or the cobra lily. That one
Great
grows,
name. Great name.
I mean, it looks like this little cobra. It's got this little hood.
Is it a
like
pitcher plant?
It is. So it's different from the other North American pitcher plants, which are Sarracenias. This is a different genus, and it's the only species in that genus. But it has
sole survivor.
Yeah. So it has this like really cool recurved hood that protects the pitcher part of the plant
from filling up with rainwater. It's so cool.
And it's got these like dangly little fangs. It's just one of the coolest plants, but it's one of those plants that I would never try to grow, or that it is very difficult to grow because it needs, I would say, like cool feet. It grows in sort of cool water springs in Northern California. There's a few areas around California where it grows, but Sacramento Valley is not the place where it wants to be. And so that's one of the native plants where it's like that one's not going to be the one that people are going to be planting in their gardens.
Yeah, just fun to enjoy.
Yes.
Kind of learn about.
But there's so much diversity, right? And I mean, it's just enjoying those special plants in their locations, but there are so many native plants that are very adaptable to a garden situation.
What would be a couple good plants for a newbie to start with?
I think it really depends. So, like I mentioned, manzanita is one of my favorites. I think every yard could use a manzanita. They fit really well into, existing landscape styles.
Low maintenance. Gotta love that.
Yeah, right. I mean, they're evergreen. They flower. They're beautiful. The only thing that I would say with manzanitas, you do need to be a little bit careful about watering. Manzanitas, their growth pattern is that they branch when they bloom, and they only bloom typically once a year. And so if you are overwatering or fertilizing to try to get a bigger plant, you get sort of long, lanky growth instead of that really cool, dense, twisty manzanita look. And so trying to incorporate a manzanita into, a vegetable garden, that's not going to be...
Keep it in the landscape.
Right, yeah. But if you have, a portion of your yard that doesn't get much maintenance, it doesn't get much supplemental water, manzanitas are great. A lot of the smaller perennial forbs, seaside daisy, epilobium, California fuchsia.
Another one,
yeah.
Beautiful. Hummingbirds love it. Give it a little space or keep it in a container. That thing spreads as well. But it's so pretty.
There are different varieties of California fuchsia that definitely, some are more aggressive.
That's the one I must have planted.
And some of them are a lot more well-behaved. Wayne silver, for one, is one that I find to be very well-behaved. It grows in a very dense clump, but very easy care.
It's great to see too, because the ones we grew didn't get too tall, and so the hummingbirds have to come right to the almost ground level to drink, and they do, and it's just so cool to see.
Yeah. A lot of the penstem and Margarita Bop is one that is very, very common.
That
in
foothill
the horticulture
penstem
trade.
in,
Yeah.
that blue is like so
It's so
brilliant.
intense.
It is like glowing blue.
Yeah. So those are a few of my favorites that I really would recommend for somebody starting out. Oh, another one is the Siskiyou woolly sunflower. That one is great. It also is the host for painted lady butterflies.
I'm a tree guy. I just love trees. Actually, I love all of it, but I certainly love trees, and I think California has some of the coolest native trees around. I mean, oaks and sequoias, obviously, I love them, but for the CNPS, the California Native Plant Society, what are your guys' thoughts on planting native trees, and are those equally important to all these other plants that we've discussed?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, the valley oak is, the iconic.
My favorite, Quercus lobata.
Yeah, the iconic Sacramento, native valley oak. They're great. They're beautiful. They support a ton of insects, a ton of wildlife.
A couple hundred different species always.
Yeah.
You hear different numbers, but it's incredible.
From birds to gall wasps and all kinds of different things. Recommendations for smaller gardens, I would say, the Ray Hartman ceanothus. If you're looking to fit a ceanothus in your yard and you want something that is, small tree sized, Ray Hartman ceanothus is a great one.
Oh, is it like trained as a standard?
You can train it as a standard.
Multi-trunked or?
Yeah, either.
Oh, cool.
It naturally wants to grow as sort of a denser shrub, but they're pretty easy to train up when they're young. Don't try to take one that's been in your yard for 15 years and cut off all the lower branches. You're not going to do well with that. But training it up from when it's young, you can get a really nice tree out of that. Desert willow is one that I have not had good luck with in clay soil, but if you have, like I said, that golden loamy soil, that is one for you, and you will not be disappointed.
That is cool.
Completely covered in pink flowers for months at a time. Hummingbirds love it, bees love it.
That's awesome. Is there one plant on your radar that you think that people aren't talking enough about?
Well, the California woolly rose mallow, which is native to the Sacramento Valley. I mean,
Is that what's on the decal you gave me?
It is our Sacramento Valley Chapter's icon. And
love it.
Yeah, I mean, that is a plant that, it's a hibiscus. It is truly a hibiscus.
I know you always think of hibiscus like, oh no, that's Hawaiian, that's tropical, that's somewhere else.
No, I mean, this plant has, 6-inch white hibiscus flowers with a red center.
Huge blossoms.
Yeah, that is something that to me is very iconic of our area. It's not difficult to grow. It does die back to the ground in the winter.
I love it. There's something kind of like intoxicating about the plants that grow so quickly. And once the soil temperatures kind of warm up, and you go, oh my gosh, this thing looked dead, a month ago, and now it's like the biggest, healthiest thing in my garden. There's something kind of encouraging, I think, about that.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing about native plants is that there's this seasonality that is because we have this Mediterranean climate in California where we have cooler, wet winters, warmer dry summers.
Warmer, that's a nice way of saying it.
Having that sort of seasonality, maybe we don't get the sort of, eastern change of
that crisp fall.
Yeah, we don't have the change in color of the tree leaves and things like that, the way that's sort of such a thing on the East Coast. But, a red bud will change to brilliant yellow. A mock orange will change to brilliant yellow leaves in the fall. There's always this sort of like flush of growth in a lot of our natives in the fall as well, because for our native plants here, the most stressful time of year is often the summer, right? I mean, it's like in other places in the U.S., winter is sort of the dead season, right, for plants. But in California, the rough season is the long, hot summer. And so with those first fall rains, you get this flush of new growth. And that's almost the most exciting.
We've already seen a little bit of that already.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many of our natives are they're so dependent on that water cycle that, seeing that flush of new growth and flowering sometimes in response to rain is kind of exciting and renewing.
Absolutely. I love it. I'm sold. I'm on board. And I've noticed too, sometimes you want to plant natives, but it's difficult to get your hands on those plants. And I've noticed that in the last few years, I'm noticing more and more native plants, whether by seed or by seedling, popping up in our nurseries. That's a good thing, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I think when I started my garden, I was going down to, Southern California, where a lot of the early adopters of native plants had nurseries. But yeah, it's definitely expanded quite a bit in recent years. We have a few native-specific nurseries in Sacramento now. There's the website. It's a product of the California Native Plant Society. It's called CalScape. And CalScape is a very cool website that you can it has any information that you would want about native plants can be found on CalScape.
Love it.
It can tell you, how big a plant gets, what conditions it likes, where to buy that plant. Nurseries can register with CalScape to keep their inventories on there. It'll tell you, if you are looking for a plant that you want a 3-foot tall plant that tolerates clay soil and gets partial sun, and blooms in April. It can tell you what plant that is.
Love it. Finally, technology doing something good for us.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I'm so excited about Green Acres carrying more native plants is that, I think some of our native nurseries, you have to kind of know what you're looking for to seek out a native plant nursery. But having...
They're niche.
Yeah, but native plants, it's they're gorgeous. They'll stand up to any other.
They're just as pretty.
Yeah,
if not more so.
More.
Yeah. If not, well, you started mentioning their fragrances and all these other things. There's so much to enjoy about them.
Yeah. So having them out in areas where or stores and locations where the everyday person who is not necessarily in tune with native plants may come across it and find something that they love. That's great.
Love it. You mentioned CalScape. If people want to hook up and learn more about the California Native Plant Society, where should they go?
Yeah, CNPS.org will get you to your local chapter. There's a map, and you can figure out who your local chapter is. If you are within the Sacramento Valley Chapter boundaries, we would love to have you. We're a volunteer organization. We've got, we have our native nursery where people can volunteer during, I think we have nursery work days on Wednesdays. We have chapter meetings once a month where you can hear about different topics on native plants. Our upcoming one is going to be on carnivorous plants native to California. We also are in desperate need of people who have graphics skills and IT skills.
That's Austin.
All of that is necessary for running, a nonprofit organization these days.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we have lots of opportunities for hikes and work days and getting involved with conservation. So,
you guys still doing the garden tours?
Yes. So yeah, we have our spring garden tour. It's the way that we run it. It's a free tour, but we have usually about 30, potentially more this year because we are actually doing a 2-day tour this year.
Very cool.
And so all of these homes throughout Sacramento will volunteer as host gardens. All of these gardens will be at least 50% native plants, and you can go on this tour. It's self-guided. You basically get a map of the houses that are participating or gardens that are participating, and you can visit one, you can visit 20, you can visit as many as you would like in your area. But yeah, that is a great way to see native gardens through different phases of development. If you're thinking about transitioning your garden to native plants, you can see, what We often have a few gardens that are sort of newly established, so you can see what that's going to look like for the first year or two. We also have a lot of very mature native gardens. I'm planning on being on the tour this year.
There we go.
Yeah.
You're getting ready. You're going to have it polished and ready to show off.
Yep.
That's exciting.
So yeah, if you're interested in seeing native gardens, I highly recommend signing up for our free tour. Again, you can access that through the sacvalleycnps.org website. We will probably start registrations sort of late winter, early spring. Right now, we are currently looking for host gardens as well. So if you are already on the native plant bandwagon and you want your garden to be on the tour, reach out and let us know. It's a great opportunity to see native plants, see native garden design styles, meet great people as well.
Love it. Well, Lesley Hamamoto of the California Native Plant Society, the Sacramento Valley Chapter, I tip my straw hat to you. I think what you guys are doing is just fantastic. We need that. We need more natives, and I think just one plant at a time.
Yeah.
You know, we can turn our region into just a powerhouse of native organisms, just all mutually doing their thing.
No, thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about this, Kevin.
All right, we'll see you next. I hope, can we have you back in the future?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll see you soon.
All right, we are back from our interview with Lesley. Big shout out to Lesley Hamamoto. Thank you for sitting down with us. And I also had the honor of joining her the very next day after the interview at the Sacramento Green Acres Nursery and Supply, where she gave a talk all about native plants. And she talked for an hour and then answered all these questions, and she had a full crowd. It was quite thrilling to see how excited everyone was. People coming out the day after Halloween to talk to her about natives. It was inspiring. So this is native time right now.
Absolutely.
This is the best time to get them in. And, you know, I'm again thinking about to last week when David Miszczewski was talking about, you know, seeing in his lifetime the needle move on something like this. And it's because of people like Lesley, who are passionate about this.
Absolutely.
Right? And thank you for all the work that they do and for all the people fighting for these plants. So I'm inspired. I hope our listeners are as well. It was a pleasure to work with Lesley Hamamoto. And I just love, I'm learning about all these new natives, and it's been a blast. So thank you, everyone, for being here for that. And Kevin, go ahead and take us out.
Man, what a great week. Thank you, Lesley. We loved having you, and thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. We love having you here. Natives are where it's at. I think it's something that's going to be bigger, and it's going to be in our gardens. And if anyone listening who gardens or grows, if we can just incorporate just 1, 2, or maybe even a few native plants into your garden, you could be making quite a big difference, maybe more than you'll ever know. So let's get out there. Let's garden. Let's look to the future for brighter days ahead. Let's get after it, friends. Have a great week. Come back next week for some more garden adventures. And until then, happy gardening to you all. And please never stop growing.
Natives.